Ladies final in Calgary at the Olympics. It was Elizabeth Manley's night, and the rest of it belonged to this diminutive one, Midori Ito of Japan. She was absolutely sparkling. Figures were a disaster for her here, but remember, she was third in that free in Calgary, fifth overall there, fourth in the short program.
Ted, the temperature of the building has just gone up 10 degrees. This particular skater is indicative of what probably we will see on the Olympic podium, maybe in the #1 spot in the next Olympic Games. This is a virtuoso that is second to none on the planet. Protect their own skaters, perhaps the East Germans, even the Canadians. They are desperately looking for a particular loophole in which to mark this skater down. And frankly, there just isn't one. There are good steps, strong spins, and jumps that are simply out of this world. Now, she came on the scene in Calgary like a comet, and what will happen here is that because of that reputation, they will have to give phenomenal marks for this performance. It is virtually without a flaw.
And she reacts more than any other skater, male or female.
Well, Ted, nobody is really allowed to clap for themselves, but I would have to concede that particular privilege to her. If I ever skated like that, I suspect I'd have to give myself a standing ovation.
Midori Ito has really added a dimension to figure skating competition.
There is something wonderfully fresh about the performance level of Midori Ito that permeates the whole program, above and beyond the jumps, which, as I say, literally seem to hit the ceiling. Here was the combination, so effortlessly done.
Well, the marks I don't quite understand for technical merit. Bulgaria and Poland and Yugoslavia, funnily enough, three Eastern Bloc judges giving 5.6s, but the Canadian, Audrey Moore, goes up to a 5.9. That's the highest mark.
And Audrey Moore is dead on the money with this mark. You have to give that performance a 5.9.
But as you indicated, perhaps the judges are somewhat bemused. Her artistic marks are not quite as good. And the Canadian give a 5.7 down to a 5.7 for artistic, and there are 4 or 5 5.6s there. Nevertheless, those are the highest marks, but one would have thought they would have been higher.
5.7, 5.7, 5.7, 5.6, 5.8, 5.6.
Marks where you can be sure that Elizabeth Manley, pacing slowly backstage, waiting to go on the ice, heard the marks. This is when you're all by yourself in preparation. Nevertheless, Elizabeth seems remarkably poised and calm and comfortable because she is going to be skating next in this, the ladies' short program, when we return.
Power.
The great ladies of figure skating in the 1980s are on the ice in the final seconds of their warm-up for their 2-minute short program. The Olympic champion Katarina Witt is there, the Olympic silver medalist, Canada's Elizabeth Manley, who will skate first, and the former world champion, bronze medalist in Calgary, of course, Debbie Thomas, who skates last of the ladies.
Még 1 perc a bemelegítés. You have 1 more minute warming up time.
Certainly this is a time for Elizabeth Manley to absolutely put all effort on concentration. It is not a time to warm up. And this is a very important moment. This is a very important hurdle to get over, and then if she gets over it successfully, she can plow into the long program. Katarina Witt is skating very well in the warm-up, as is Karen Kadavy, not to mention Jill Trenery. Debbie Thomas looks a little shaky, but sometimes that's a good sign, as it was with Orser, although in the reverse, he was brilliant in the short program warm-up and then didn't quite get it together in the program itself. And sometimes mistakes can be put to good advantage if you know how to do that.
And the warm-up is now over. And the ladies have been told this. One last blade touch to ice for them, particularly for those who will skate later on in the grouping. But skating first of all is Canada's Elizabeth Manley. Elizabeth was third in the short program in Calgary, and then of course won the long to win that silver medal. And here she is.
Something very strange has happened, Ted. I don't know really what the problem is, but she has stopped right in the middle of the program. Something's the matter. Maybe the music isn't right.
She's going over to the referee now.
This is certainly very anticlimactic, particularly for the Canadians here, but sometimes, as it was with Dorothy Hamill in Munich in 1974, it worked to her advantage. The same thing happened.
She went over and had a word with the referee, who's Sonia Bianicati, the Italian ISU representative, and now she's ready again. This has to be terribly unnerving.
Same thing as with Orser, the combination so well done in the warm-up just evaporated. I don't know if it had something to do with the unsettling of the nerves at the beginning of the program, but the judges will kill her for that, particularly the East German and American. What can never be detected on the television screen is that the temperature of the building and the excitement in the audience has dropped considerably. One can feel a kind of shock wave go through the building because of that mistake. Short programs just have to be skated without a mistake. Everything else was fine. they probably will be quite kind as they were with Orser, but the fact remains it was an incompleted program with a major flaw. Perhaps the most important element was not done successfully, and she cannot beat Midori Ito, that's for sure.
Well, we'll probably never know just how much effect that false start had, whatever was wrong with the music or whatever it was. And then, of course, she did have to wait before it started again.
Well, Ted, the opening jump right here with the double flip, it's the sort of thing that you say, ah, yes, she's absolutely in form today, but I never do that. You always wait for the difficulties to come, the combination namely, and also the double axel. And with the combination, which is right here, as we see, it was just not there for her. You cannot, even with the attempt at doing the double loop, it was incompleted and will have to be considered a write-off. Certainly Audrey Moore, who is a brilliant judge here, a very fair judge, that is the sort of thing that makes your heart pound. She's the Canadian judge. I'm sure that she'll be very fair and just, but unfortunately the 5.9 or maybe even a 6 cannot be pulled out of the box.
Now we're waiting for Elizabeth's marks. Recall, of course, she was a solid second, very close to first after compulsory figures. And her first marks, of course, she must pay terribly, and the Canadian judge does give her 5.7.
And Ted, I'm sorry to interrupt. The 5.7 just cannot be justified, and she will get into a lot of trouble for that. The 5.3 was probably about right, and as you remember, Orser did not get 5.7s in the technical mark.
4.9 was from Yugoslavia. That's the lowest of the marks. And the eyes tell the story as the second group of marks are coming up now. And again, Yugoslavia hit it. You heard her say 5.3. That was the Yugoslavian mark. But with those in the short program, with Witt and Thomas still to skate, she is second behind Ito in the short. Leader, of course, overall. We'll be back after this pause from Budapest.
Thank you.
Karen Kadavi was fifth in the short program in Calgary, but then suffering a high fever, she had to withdraw. Here, after figures, she's in sixth. And Toller, that costume looks just like one of your paintings.
Well, Ted, it was designed especially for Karen, but that's a big secret. You're not supposed to tell anybody that. Very disappointing for Karen, a combination she did so easily in the warm-up. Not done properly. It was sort of only halfway done. Very disappointing for her. I know I spoke to her before the competition, and she was a very determined young lady. The program, incidentally, Ted, was done by master coach Ellen Burka, and Karen came especially from Calgary, or excuse me, Colorado Springs, and the program was thrown together in what amounted to a little more than half an hour. Nice double axel, a beauty. Gorgeous women in the competition. She is perhaps very much in the flavor or style of a Peggy Fleming or a Dorothy Hamill. Elegant, beautiful, very graceful, certainly not of the strength and virtuosity of Ito, but she has qualities that Ito does not have. Disappointing for her. I thought just the tiniest bit weak. It lacked a little bit of aggression. I think with the mistake and the lack of aggression, it will cost her. There were very fine qualities there. She certainly looked beautiful and skated with an elegance, but I don't feel that the strength was there, so necessary on this level.
With those marks for technical, you can see the very high price that must be paid when you do not complete a major element like a combination. Down to a 4.8. Of course, the Yugoslav has been judging everybody by far the lowest. Even the American judge can give her no better than 5.2. Gorgeous costume, though. Beautiful costume. And, of course, much higher marks here. Although the Canadian giving her only 5.5, as against 5.7s from many of the other judges, and 1.58. But in the short, she is only 6th. We'll be back. The Witt, Trenery, and Debbie Thomas. But first, let's pause. There's a traditional routine, a ritual for Katarina and her coach Frau Mueller just before the skate, as Katty begins to pace like a hunting lioness. Of her coach, she said, she's much more than a coach. She's a confidant, almost a mother. And that is so apparent in the very moving communication that always takes a special form. And there is that final touch, a touch of love and encouragement, because then the mentor will wait and the protege will move all alone to center stage. The First Lady of Figure Skating, the reigning Olympic and world champion, and she began this defense of her world championship in Budapest by winning the figures, which is a rarity for her, the marvelous lady.
Well, Ted, it will be very interesting to see just what happens. I'm sure that she's going to do it, but she has never been first in figures before, and it must be a kind of exhilarating feeling. Just exactly as that double axel was absolutely exhilarating. Great combination. I spoke to her teacher, Jutta Müller, before, and she says Katarina has one of the best attitudes of any of the skaters of her generation. I have not seen her miss. She is so dependable, and what a pleasure for any teacher to have this kind of pupil. Of course, how many double Olympic gold medalists are there in the world? Only 2, Sonia Haney and Katarina Witt.
Feast your eyes. This is her last year as a major international amateur competitor. And if you've seen her, you've seen one of the all-time greats. I think that wave you talk about so often is there, Toller.
Well, the wave often comes, certainly, and is very visible or very much in evidence when you do the combination, as Elizabeth Manley didn't, and the double axel, so it should be clear sailing from here on in. With this kind of performance, with the reputation, with paying your dues for so many years in skating, this is the sort of 6.0 performance. She deserves it. She should have it. They should be gutsy enough to pull one out and give it to her.
You know, she came down and presented the combination to Frau Mueller. She came right into the corner where Frau was standing, and they were practically able to touch hands down there as she completed the second part of it. And she's getting a standing ovation. People have rushed down to the boards, which they've been asked not to do, but they're doing it. And the two of them, Frau Mueller and Katerina, with their own private greeting for each other as she came off the ice.
Like Brian Boitano in the short program, a short program where he stood up on the battlefield where so many fell down, she has done the same thing, proving herself to be the ultimate champion.
But the marks are surprisingly low, really. I don't quite understand for her. The Yugoslav's been off anyway. The Canadian giving her a 5.8, and the Bulgarian, the East German, of course, the Pole, but a 5.6 there from Finland.
Now, what the Canadian has done here with Audrey Moore, if you remember, with Elizabeth Manley for the same mark, with a very big mistake, she gave a 5.7. So really, 1/10 of a point isn't much of a difference. There's a 6.0.
Yes, there's a 6 from the East German judge, and it's well-deserved from Reinhard Mirmsecker, and the rest of 5.9s, except for that Yugoslavian chap of 5.8. And we'll be back. Debbie Thomas, if she's seen that, must be wondering what it is she can possibly do.
5.9, 6.0, 5.9, 5.8. Thank you.
A year ago, problems in the compulsory ruined her chance at a medal in the world. Here, her fourth place in figures meant that a strong short program would make her a medal contender. One of the 7 required elements has a mandatory deduction of 0.8 of a point. And her problems weren't over. He popped that double axle into a single axle, and that's another severe deduction. She came here with the hopes of winning a medal and possibly setting herself up for a world title and next year, the year after. And with a performance like that, I tell you, as a competitor, your wildest nightmares don't come close. A missed combination, a missed double axle, mandatory deduction, a real rough break for Jill Trenery. The hopes of Jill Trenery shattered the tension of a 2-minute program.
Well, there's Debbie Thomas, as usual, the old handshake with her coach. Debbie Thomas actually now is really in a rather strange position. she's in a good position, one would have to think, because if she can come out and put her combination in and do her program, she knows she's going to be at the very least in second place going into the free skating.
And Ted, what is so frustrating really when you think of it, so much hinges on that combination, a combination that all of these competitors can do on a good day with their eyes closed. Here it comes. Nicely done.
The facial expression told the story there.
Like the Canadians, the Americans support their athletes so wonderfully. And the Americans here have caught the fire of her energy and are skating every step of the way with her. Nice double axel. It should be a clear sailing from here on in, but even in the footwork, one can make a mistake, so concentration must be maintained.
Sometimes the American, she's got almost the entire house going with her.
Not to dampen the enthusiasm for either Witt or Debbie Thomas's programs, which are excellent, one must not forget the Ito program, and you would have to compare the three. Nicely done, and she came through, and she had to a standing ovation from the Americans.
And there's Katerina and Frau Mueller on the left there. They were looking on. They are extremely gracious competitors. They are when they win, as in Calgary and as in Cincinnati, and she was when she lost in Geneva.
Debbie Thomas is the kind of skater that perhaps because of the blow to her ego that she experienced in Calgary, this was the very best thing for her. This was a very concentrated program. She was a little bit nervousness, but she put that to her advantage and skated without a mistake.
It is her birthday, by the way, and the American crowd's been singing off and on to her throughout the day, but today was Debbie Thomas's birthday. Whether or not the judges are going to give her a big birthday present.
Well, Ted, I think the birthday present was the flawless program that she hoped for, and I think that she would want little else than that.
Waiting now for her first marks for technical merit. Remember, they did not give Katerina Witt extremely high marks. The coach, of course, is over there pronouncing, but he always does, and then he hates it if he doesn't get the right marks come out. He's already been announcing it could be all 5/8s and 5/9. It's not all 5/8s and 5/9s, but I think it could be enough to pull her ahead of Katerina Witt in the short program. The 5/9 from Poland, the 5/9, of course, from the United States. In the first set of marks, East Germany, which is a little bit strange, also giving her that mark.
Well, Ted, you're going to have to wait to see what the second mark from the East German judge is, because I'm quite sure that Debbie Thomas is not first on his board with the short program. We'll see.
No, I'm quite sure that is true. The second set of marks are for artistic impression. They should ordinarily and generally are not as good as those of Katerina Witt, and that for the East German it is not down to a 5/8. But with those marks, she has gone ahead in the short program and pulled past Manley in overall. Katerina Witt is still the overall leader. Debbie Thomas is now second overall, and Elizabeth Manley, who was fourth in the short program, is third.